they've kind of reached the point where thought they might be by this point in the year. And sure enough, I went back and looked at my win-loss predictions when the schedule came out. I had the Eagles at 6-2 right here. So they're about, even though it probably the way it's looked isn't what we fully expected, how they would get to this
I don't
point.
think you had them losing to the Giants, though. Maybe one of the
Mm-hmm.
other great teams they played.
Right.
Yep, let's bring him on now, right now. At Brandon Gowton, you can follow him on X. Read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, welcome to the program on this Wednesday, my friend. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, guys. Yeah, I agree with John there. It's certainly not ideal.
Yeah, Campbell not being on the field,
Is Dean better though, BLG?
I think, yeah, like in a given week today, which we've seen Vic Fangio will play the best players, as we saw last year with Bryce Huff got paid a lot of money, but he didn't want to put him on the field. But Campbell is playing a lot better at his position, obviously, than I think Bryce Huff was last year. And, for as much as Nakobe, I think maybe you can say overall, Vic might trust him a little bit more. You look at that play that he gave up in coverage, like Jahad Campbell might break that up, given what we've seen from him in coverage this year. And also, you're not just investing in Jahad Campbell in terms of like his long-term future. You're investing in what player he could be by the end of this season. I always point out how we saw Nolan Smith make a big leap within the year last year. Like you're investing in what Jahad Campbell could have proved to be. And by Vic Fangio's own admission, he's the one who says they need more reps. So when you're taking those reps away from Jahad Campbell, I don't love that.
Yeah, it's amazing we're having this conversation with the Philadelphia Eagles. So after all the years of terrible off-ball linebacker play, and all of a sudden we have too many off-ball linebackers in Philadelphia. It's bizarre almost. But, I go back to, because a lot of people say, well, just play all three of them. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work either, and I go back, I forget who asked the question, but Vic was asked that. You were probably there, BLG, in training camp, and somebody asked him, would you ever play three linebackers at once? And I love Vic's answer. It was like, at linebacker? No. That's not what the modern NFL is. So, yeah, they could play all at the same time, but Campbell would be playing on the edge, and he's not very good on the edge. At least yet, BLG. And now you have Brandon coming back, Nolan coming back, maybe, still a little bit uncertainty there, but should be back at some point. Azeez Ojulari should be back. You don't need him at edge coming out of the bye. So to me, it becomes just off-ball linebacker, and I guess he's going to go base and nickel, and that'll be it. Nakobe plays in the base, and Jahad plays in the nickel. But this guy's got such an upside. I realize it's about right now, but boy, I'm with you. I mean, the upside is so huge. I want to get him to that upside as quickly as possible. And if that, if that means Nakobe can't play, there might be injuries. It might change. Not saying he's out of the equation, but if it's just between those two guys, I got to play Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, Nakobe's a free agent after this year too. Like he could be gone.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going to go next. And BLG, I think your point about the 9 games is good too. I mean, you learned a lot about a lot of players last year in 9 games. I mean, 9 games is a lot still for Jahad Campbell to develop as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you just look at the upside there. I think that's hard to. And it's a first round pick. Like I know we talked about the resources thing there with Bryce Huff, but like it's a first round pick. It's a big investment that you're making into a player, and I think you owe it to him. And when especially again, it'd be another story if Jahad Campbell was out there and he was like majorly struggling. Different story. At that point, you put the best player in, trying to win. Now that's not the case.
Yeah. BLJ, what do you think the story is, man, for this team at the bye week now? They're 6-2. This is a weird team, BLJ, in that it's like kind of boom or bust all over. Like Jalen Hurts, 1 week he doesn't complete a pass in the second half, and you're like, what the hell? And then he has a perfect passer rating, and he's 15-20 with 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's just an odd team. Running game, they can't get it going, and then they go for 270. They're all over the map a little bit, BLJ. What is the story to you one big story of this team at 6-2 at the bye week.
Yeah, I think things are trending genuinely in the right direction here. They needed to come out with a good response against that Giants team after what we previously saw from them against that team in week 6, and they did that. And it just seems like they're kind of figuring some things out. And in addition to that, and playing their best football, actually outgaining opponent for the first time.
How about that? That's
all
big.
Year. It's a good way to win games typically. For this team, it hasn't mattered this year so much, but to actually outplay your opponent on a play-by-play basis generally is a very good thing. It's encouraging to see that. The fact that you have the bye week here, you have some time to reflect maybe on what has gone correct for them recently, what they can maybe lean into more, what they can adjust, and also just getting healthier with these injuries. It does feel like they've kind of reached the point where thought they might be by this point in the year. And sure enough, I went back and looked at my win-loss predictions when the schedule came out. I had the Eagles at 6-2 right here. So they're about, even though it probably the way it's looked isn't what we fully expected, how they would get to this
point. I don't
think
you had them losing to the Giants, though. Maybe one of the other great teams they played.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That Giants game is still inexplicable. Maybe it's just as simple as a short week and all that. But
road teams have struggled on Thursday night this year. In general, it's a tough spot.
MetLife, divisional opponent. I'm kind of chalking it up to all those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was the one poor performance, really poor. At least, you had a half, bad half, good half, yada, yada. But that was just an abject disaster at MetLife Stadium. But maybe it is that simple. The Big Fred packages, those are working. Is it sustainable? Can you go that direction the rest of the year? I don't know about you, BLG, but I got a lot of people saying, all right, the Eagles don't use Jalen Hurts under, very much under center in a traditional play action environment, obviously taking out tush bushes and things like that for, his entire career. And, reporters point that out and say, well, they don't use play action. And then they go to play action and it's our fault. Do you get a lot of that? It's like, you see, he could do it. I'm not the one who's not putting him under center. The Eagles didn't put him under center. So why do you think the change at this point, and they pulled that lever that they would never pull before?
It's a great question because it feels like it should have happened by now, but I think you just look at how they needed to change some things, as Lane Johnson called for after that loss to the Giants, and predictability, and just the fact that the offense was not performing anywhere close to the level it can be, and this game was proof of that. You can say it's just the Giants, and sure, it's not a good defense, but the Eagles struggled against that not a good defense a couple weeks ago. So. And the good teams take care of bad teams like the Eagles did there. So they had to change some things, and credit to them for making some adjustments. And the fact that they've run 6 offensive line sets, the 2 most times ever in the Nick Sirianni era in the past 2 games, is just kind of funny in terms of just how it always goes back to Nick saying, wise man avoids all extremes, but then you see extreme behavior from them.
Constant extreme behavior. Yeah. Now, is that more about Nick never likes to talk about anything these days, but he certainly doesn't.
Seriously.
Oh my God. That Monday press conference, I had to write about it. It was unbelievably brutal, BLG. He wouldn't answer a cowbell question. It's like, what are we doing?
It's a big secret there that they can't
give
up.
Ripped him, BLG. John ripped him. John said he felt a little disrespected by them.
No, I did not. I did not say that.
I said, "Are you disrespected by it, John?" You said yes.
No, I don't recall that.
Oh no, insulted. I said insulted. That was the word I used.
It's insulting to listen to. I mean, it's got nothing to do with me personally. It's just like it's got to. Again, the cowbell question really set me off because it's so innocuous. Other than Mississippi State gimmick infringement, other than that, it's so innocuous, and he wouldn't even answer that question.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gone. I think it's funny to think about that kind of approach from Nick as it relates to some things with the team. Like we wonder sometimes, why aren't they doing more? Why aren't they doing under center? Why aren't they doing play action? How much of that is just like sometimes the team, their approach is like, we just want to keep things secret as long as we can, and maybe to a detriment in terms of
Well, I think it hurts the players too. I brought that up because, and you remember that Darren Sproles and this predates Nick, so it's a league wide problem. But I remember when Darren tore his hamstring, and we were all told it was a hamstring strain, and all of a sudden 2 weeks turns into 4 weeks, and 4 weeks turns into 8 weeks, and he's not back. And there was that little bubble in the fan base saying, why isn't this guy on the field? It's a hamstring. Why isn't he trying to get back? He finally gets back and he tells us, oh, yeah, I tore my hamstring. Like you're in the case this week with the angst around AJ, which is far bigger than just an injury. I don't know about you, BLG, but I at bleedinggreennation.com, and everybody should check it out. But there's a lot of people say, is AJ really injured? Is AJ really injured?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of, hey, he got hurt on the last play in Minnesota. He's dealing with something. That's it. It cuts off all kinds of problems. And they won't do it. It's bizarre to me. It is absolutely bizarre to me.
Yeah. Guarding state secrets over there, like just very life or death information that would change the world if it was to be revealed. That seems like that's the approach. And I think, it's just, I don't get it. And people can be, and I get fans can sometimes be like, oh, why, they don't care about the media or anything, but like, it's for the fans too. It's just for the fans to have information that is really not going to cost the team anything. It's just transparency that could be there and doesn't cost anyone anything.
And actually could be helpful is kind of my point.
Right.
But I didn't even want to go down that direction. But I went because I was talking about Fred, and he's not going to talk about scheme. And he kind of framed it after the game was like, well, he's just a good player and we want to get him on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not true. It's about the scheme, and it's about the fact that Grant Calcaterra is not a good blocker, and Kylan Granson's not a good blocker. And we like to play a lot of 12 and 13. And when it's 13, if you get Fred out there, all of a sudden, everybody knows you're going to run, but so what? You can get some of these double teams going, and it worked really well. Do you expect to see that to continue? That have they found something with that package? Because I think they found something with that package.
So if you have 10 really good offensive linemen, I guess you could just put them out there with one quarterback since they're all really good. Maybe. Why not?
Yeah.
No, I do think it's the whole point, I think, of, under center play action and these heavy packages isn't that necessarily you need to build the offense out of them from week to week as much as it should be a tool in the toolbox that you have there available.
I'm talking like 5-10 times a game.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I do think for now, since it is working, but I don't think it's like, they have to, that doesn't have to necessarily be their bread and butter the rest of the year, but they should lean into it as long as it's working, which it seems to be right now. And at some point, maybe teams adjust and then they catch up to it. It's not as effective, but that's the game. That's the adjustment game at that point. But for now, absolutely, it needs to be a part. And people are calling for that because, why are you putting these, heavy tight end sets out there with tight ends who can't block when you have offensive line depth, and that makes more sense to go that route.
BLG, how would you handle the AJ Brown stuff? Maybe it's by nothing at all, but obviously the social media stuff has been a story this year. I'm trying not to put too much stock in it, but I do just want to ask you from your perspective, like, if you're the owner, don't you kind of just want to call AJ in and be like, hey, man, like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? Like, is this all real? Is it all fake? Are you just having fun? Are you trolling? Do you actually hate it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of get on the same page. How would you handle the AJ Brown stuff, and do you think it will continue in the second half of the year?
Yeah, it's not just about Nick Sirianni, but there's an element here that, I think about, like, let's just say if this was happening on Bill Belichick's Patriots, it wouldn't, first of all. But, like, there's some coaches and some organizations who are just like, this stops now. Like, just have the authority and are able to kind of, that prevent that kind of situation from even happening. I think it's, it's a little more nuanced with AJ, a player of a star caliber. It's more simple than I can just say there and point to, but I think ultimately that is kind of what needs to happen, because it's enough. And also, I do think, social media as a whole, we have a whole conversation about that, and the impacts of that. It's just, I don't think it's very good for anyone. And I think when we see these things, and for AJ, for his sake, for the people who are seeing it and then making their own interpretations, which which is only what you can do when you're seeing that. But I don't always think that means things are real when you look at that, or it means what you think it means. So it just seems like a big mess to me, and probably best to be just avoided at all. I think it would do everyone a lot of favors if he would just stay off of there.
Do you think it matters at all? Like, do you think the social media talk is, because some people are like, it's only the outside. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the case, man. Like, they are human beings. They are a social media era. We got a lot of young athletes here. You know what I mean? They grew up with social media. They grew up with this stuff. I don't know. I mean, do you think they hear it in the locker room, or do you think it's a whole lot of media conversation and that's it?
I don't think it. I mean, it depends what you mean by matters. Like, I don't think it's preventing the team from winning, and clearly, I don't think it is as big. I think the AJ thing feels bigger to the outside world than it does to the inside world there, and I think I think AJ's misunderstood, and I think that, like, it's not like his teammates hate him or anything like that.
I think they love him, the vast majority. Yeah.
So in that vein, I don't think it's like, I think people get this perception, and maybe it's just me perceiving it wrong, of like, oh, he's a distraction and locker room cancer, whatever. Like, that's the furthest thing from the truth in terms of how everything I hear about the coaches and players talk about him from the inside. So I can't say that like it's tearing the team apart when I look at it from that angle.
Want to reverse course back to the offensive line depth. After the game, I on our post-game show, BLG, I gave my game ball to Brett Toth. And if you would have asked me, by the way, I said during the game, I said, well, he probably wasn't the best player on the field. Then I watched the game again. He might have been the best player on the field. If you would have told me going into the game, the Eagles would blow out the Giants, I would have said, yeah. And even if you told me, as struggling as they were going to run for 276 yards, I said, it's possible. They have Saquon Barkley. Maybe they figure it out. But if you would have told me Brett Toth played like Jim Otto in the Hall of Fame, that is the most surprising thing maybe of the first half of the season. Unbelievable the way Brett Toth played in that game. Is there anything more surprising to you in the first half of the season than how he played in that game?
I mean, I think that's fair to say. And credit to him. Obviously, I've been critical of Brett Toth in the past.
Everybody has.
Yeah, but yes, specifically as the shotgun snapping, I didn't think he was a terrible player, as much as he just struggled in that one specific regard. But Jeff Stetland stuck with him. And that shows you that Jeff Stetland knows a thing or two about offensive line, what he's doing there. I just think it's also really cool the perseverance that Brett Toth has had to get to this point. I mean, he originally signed with the Eagles in August of 2019. We're here in 2025, and he's finally making his first ever start at center, which a lot of his teammates seem to think, that's like his true best position for him. And certainly where he's gotten a lot of reps in the past year.
Smart guy. He is very, he's
absolutely
like a nuclear engineer.
Yeah. I almost wonder if he's going to be like an assistant in the future if he wants to do that here with Stout. I could see him kind of taking on that assistant offensive line coach role down the road. But yeah, for now, good depth player to have, and showing why Jeff Stetland has kept him around.
Yeah, it's amazing story. The bye week comes at an interesting time for the Eagles because it's right before the trade deadline, which is November 4th, next Tuesday. We all think they're going to be buyers more than sellers. I think you saw with New England yesterday, I think you can go both ways.
Yes.
I think we've talked about it a lot. I don't know where you are, if it's shifted with Brandon being back. Position-wise, do you still think edge is most likely when it comes in, players coming in? And any chance there's a New England type situation where players are going out?
If you're looking at players going out, I think you're looking at maybe like someone like Sidney Brown, who kind of just, hasn't been able to find a role here.
Good special teams player, though, when he's
Absolutely.
not making mistakes, when he's not getting penalties.
And they need depth here. But someone like that, kind of like previous regime, obviously he wasn't here.
Yeah.
Or Vic Fangio wasn't here in the building when he was drafted. Someone like that, maybe. And obviously you're not getting a haul for him, but someone who kind of just doesn't maybe have a future here in Philly. That's the kind of player I think you could see either get dealt for something or be part of, a bigger trade where you're getting something and they're kind of a throw-in at that point. But my mindset on the trade deadline is that I don't think the Eagles need to make a move to make a move. Like, and I'd almost rather them do nothing. If the alternative is paying like a relatively premium price for a marginal upgrade somewhere. I don't think they need to add a guy at cornerback or a guy at edge rusher. Like, I don't know. They don't need just bodies at those spots with what they have there now, the injuries and getting healthier. They need a difference maker if they can add
they got
that.
enough bodies, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I think if you were to bring in, say, a Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips from Miami, you almost have to send Azeez Ojulari out, right? I mean, you have too many bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you'd be getting much, just like a 7th round pick or something like that. But I see that as a possibility. But I'm with you. I mean, a lot of fans, I don't know over at Bleeding Green Nation, but have focused on Reek Woolen. I'm like, that's the kind of guy. I think they would not like him 2 weeks in. As Kaylee Ringo's performance against the Giants, has that given you some hope? Oh, you're out. I don't know about you, but I'm out on Kaylee. Then I'm back in. He keeps dragging me back in. Obviously he's got the physical traits. Can you trust him?
And kudos to him. I think, obviously he struggled way less than he did in his last game against the Giants, where he got benched before having to come back on the field. But this Giants receiving core is truly awful. So I don't know how much I'm supposed to, make of him truly turning it around. It's a good step in the right direction, I would say, but I don't like trust
confidence
him.
Builder at least.
Maybe possibly. And again, I'm not ruling out the thing that like possibility that Keeley could have the not quite to the same level, but like the improvement that Nolan Smith again had from in last season. I think Keeley could get better from where he was at the start of the season to the end of the season. But I also think even if that is the case, there's still there's questions if he's still even a viable starter, if that's true.
BLJ, Eagles typically give their pillar players contracts a year before their contract is set to expire. Mm-hmm. Has Reed Blankenship potentially played his way out of an extension in Philly?
I don't think he's played his way out of it. It's all going to come down to, the specifics, obviously the terms. I don't think he's been so good that they can't afford him. And I think he's a player who could give them, I'm not saying like hometown discount to the extent he's passing up huge money on the open market, but I think he might like playing here. Obviously, he's very tight with Cooper DeJean, and there could be value in that with their podcasts and everything. So I do think I think they could afford him. I think they could reach an affordable contract if they want to.
It's actually an interesting point about the podcast. Jason Kelsey's making like $100 million. It's like, do I want to take $1 million or two less?
I don't think exciting. I don't think exciting Mike's is going to reach the level of New Heights.
No, it's not. If it reaches half of it, he's making up for all the money that he might have lost. Because at one point, BLJ, $15 million a year was being floated out there. I don't think he's getting anywhere close to that. He's not having a very good year.
By the way, did you hear Vic's? I asked Vic about Reed.
Yeah.
And he was very complimentary. Did you hear that? And did you buy it?
I think Reed's not having a bad year. I think Vic talked about, and like, hey, Vic's honest, right? With when he said, and he said true. He feels like Reed's having a good year. Now he didn't go, overboard and saying it's, a Pro Bowl All Pro kind of year, but I think you have to consider that, like he talked about, he's playing next to a rookie safety who is very, prone to blowing coverages, as Andrew Makuba has been this year, and you have to consider that. Also, playing with the quarterback 2 spot at times where that's been very volatile. So ultimately, between his play and also what he can do, which Vic highlighted in terms of being the signal caller there on the back end and helping players line up, there's value in that as well. So look, you're not going to fill your roster out with all pro players at every spot.
Yeah,
and the fact that the Eagles have a player of Reed Blankenship's caliber, they signed as an undrafted rookie free agent, is like, that can't be taken for granted. That's a massive win for the organization. To even get a UDFA who's like a solid backup is amazing. To get a guy who's been here for multiple years now and can be, I would say, at least a solid starter is really good. So, and also be obviously very affordable too, where his cap number is like just under $2 million each year. So, yeah, I think Reed is a nice part of this leadership, a nice part of this secondary.
Same vein there. Jordan Davis, you think an extension's coming?
I do, because I think if you pick up the 5th-year option like they did, they're showing faith in him, and we're seeing the production there. He has a new career high in regular season sacks with 3 this year. His TFLs are up. Like he's had, if you look at all his stats in this season, like he could outpace what he had in like the 55 games prior to this season here. So I do think they're seeing the signs they want to see from him.
Yeah, he's already at a career high in sacks, so that's a number that resonates with.
I don't even really think the sack number matters with Jordan Davis.
No, I don't. I think
I think it's
either.
more about the impact. Yeah.
We Vic was very honest about the pass rush as a whole. I think a lot of people were excited because they got 5 sacks. He was not excited with the pass rush.
He's like, pass rush could have been a lot better.
Which I didn't know we were going to go down this route with contracts, but I do think, boy, the second half of the season, whenever he comes back, is going to be really important to Nolan Smith. Not that he was playing poorly, because I think he was playing pretty well, especially as a run defender.
Yes.
He is a tremendous edge setter, even though he's undersized. But I mean, are you worried about Nolan Smith I think that was the assumption and Howie in the maintenance offseason was, well, we got to pay Jalen Carter, we got to pay Nolan Smith, and Quignon's coming and Cooper's coming, yada, yada. Is Nolan in that certain category for you? Because he's no longer in that certain category for me.
Yeah, it really depends what we see here in the second half of the season. That's going to be big, and his ability to stay healthy. Obviously, you can slow play that one a little bit more with the 5th-year option. You get that there.
I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
I think it buys you more time.
Yeah, that's the way almost you have to go. At Brandon Gowton, make sure you follow BLG on the X platform here during the bye week. Get all your Eagles news. They're already making moves. Perry Nickerson. They got 3 guys coming back. BleedingGreenNation.com. You can see it as it happens in real time over there. That's my question for you. They created the 1 spot. Perry's back on the practice squad. Say that's Jacorian Bennett. We'll just keep it in the secondary. You still need spots for Brandon and Nolan when he comes back. Who's going?
I think AJ Dillon probably, who didn't play against the Vikings, I believe, healthy scratch, and then was active for this past game, but didn't play a snap at all, either on offense or special teams. So
Tank is here, man. Tank is here.
Tank is here, and then you get Xavier Gibson, to help return kickoffs. So it's just the role really isn't there for AJ Dillon, and you might be able to. I don't know if teams want him. If they do, then he'll find a new home. If not, you might be able to get him back on the practice squad. And provide depth there. So I think that's one. Is there another one, John, that stands out that I am not thinking of?
Yeah, that's I keep going back to Aziz. I mean, why if you have all those edge rushers, and remember Brandon and Nolan are both edge rushers, do we really need Aziz? But I think that would be more of trying to trade him out, try to get something. Even if it's a 7th round pick. Try to get some, which I think they could get, because there's a lot of teams that need pass rushing help. So,
will Nolan be back for the Packer game? You guys think?
That was the talk originally. So
I know it was originally, but I'm kind of starting to feel like that might not come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm not going to say 100%, but it also helps too that they have the extra day. It's a Monday night game. And just the bye, there's a little bit more time there. It's hard to say because I don't think it's like the worst thing that they didn't activate his window before the bye, but it's quite possible they just do it early next week, and then he could be ready. So
I mean, if they don't activate the window, then I start to get really concerned.
Yeah, right. All right, BLG, by the next time we talk to you, will Howie Roseman have made a trade? Yes or no?
So the deadline will be over at that point, right?
November.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say multiple. Yeah, multiple.
Yeah, he's Howie. To BLG's point about, which I agree with. Don't make a trade to make a trade. Don't make a move to make. But that's how he can't stand still, man. He can't.
Mm-hmm. I know, but that's I'm thinking he might not. I mean, if you can't get a difference maker, how many more bodies do we need at these positions? So
I agree with that. But
maybe
he just likes to do things. He just likes.
He does.
And they have so many picks. I mean, they have ample picks next year in the draft too.
No doubt. All right, BLG, good stuff, man. Make sure you guys follow him at Brandon Gowton. Read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. Make an account, chat in on there, and drop your comments on the articles. BLG, thank you for doing it again, brother. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week, post-trade deadline.
All right, guys. Sounds good. See you then.
Thanks, bud.